Are you overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information that you have to learn for your exams? Well, I've had a request from subscriber Priyanchi Mittal asking for more information on how to study, and so today I'm going to share with you my very top tip on how to revise for your exams, my #1 revision strategy. Hi, I'm Lawena and welcome to Study Calm, where I support you to become a calmer and more confident student. And if that sounds good to you, then consider pressing that subscribe button. So step 1 is relax the brain. Now on Study Calm, we've talked a lot about the link between stress levels and the capacity of the brain to learn. So I'm not going to go into it in detail, but enough to say whenever we start a study session, we'll really benefit from just taking some breaths into the belly, filling that belly up full of air, and then letting a really long, slow, calm out breath, because it just sends a message to the body and a message to the brain that we can come out of any anxiety sort of fight or flight state and come into a relaxed state, come into the front part of the brain, which is what's going to help us to think properly and study effectively. Step number 2 is a big one. We are going to condense the information that we have to learn onto revision cards. Now, before you say, oh, I don't like revision cards, just hear me through to the end, because I've got a really good technique and I've got a really good rationale behind why this works. So a bonus tip, as you are reading the information through, try reading it out loud. Some of the latest research from the University of Waterloo has found that there is a correlation between reading information out loud and our ability to remember it long term. It's called the production effect, and it's something about producing that out loud and hearing yourself saying it, which helps us remember the information. So the way I want you to do the revision cards is this: a question on one side and an answer on the other side. That's really important for a later step. Now, as we make our revision cards, our brain is going through the process of understanding the information, breaking it down, condensing it, and then reproducing it onto the revision cards. So that's a really thorough learning process that the brain's going through. So we've got questions on one side, we've got our answer on the other side, and when you're writing out the information, feel free to do it in a way that is going to suit your learning style. So you might want to include pictures or diagrams, or write it out in different colors, or write little memory triggers or tips or tricks that are going to help you remember the information. But step number 3 is the teach stage. If you can take that information on the revision cards and go and teach it to somebody, a parent, a friend, a study buddy, a sibling, anybody who will listen, and actually explain that information to them, again, it's a different process for the brain to go through, consolidating, working out how to explain it with that different impetus, that different sort of angle of trying to get somebody else to understand the information. If you can't find anybody else to do it with, it's even worth just pretending. You know, teach it to your pet or your teddy bear. You'll still get the benefit of the brain going through that process. So number 3 is an important stage of teach the information to someone else. Step number 4, and this is really important, test yourself. Now, research shows again and again that it is retrieving that information, going into the brain and searching for it and finding it, that is what helps us really learn something long term. So the way that I like to do it is this: you ask yourself the question on the one side, you see if you can remember. If you can, you put it in the nailed it pile. If you can't, you put it in the not yet nailed pile. Okay, so you end up with 2 piles of revision cards. At first, there's not going to be many cards in the nailed it pile, and this is going to be a big stack over here in the not yet nailed pile. But as you go through, you pick up the not yet nailed pile, you read through the information out loud again, you turn it over, you test yourself, and more cards gradually go into the nailed it pile. And you're left with the really tricky ones, the really difficult ones, but less and less cards. Now be strict with yourself. There's no point in cheating. If you didn't remember the answer exactly, don't put it on the nailed it pile. There's no going, oh yeah, no, I knew that. If you couldn't recall the information, put it on the not yet nailed pile. You'll get there. Step 5 is a great step because it's about stopping studying and taking a break. Preferably go and do some exercise. Run around the block, take the dog for a walk, do some yoga, do something physical, relax the brain, relax the body. And then you're going to come back to it for step 6, which is repeat, test yourself. Shuffle all those cards up and go through again and test yourself. Don't be surprised if when you come back the nailed it pile is not as big as when you left. Of course you've forgotten some of that information, and forgetting and relearning is a really important part of laying down that long-term memory. So you go through the whole process again with the nailed it pile and the not yet nailed it pile, getting more and more and more into the nailed it pile, and then you keep repeating it. So you do it again the next day, you do it again 3 days later, depending on how long you've got until the exam, you do it again the following week. It's called spaced repetition, and it's what really helps us, that forgetting and relearning really helps us to lay down the long-term memory. Now this is not an easy technique, but it's not meant to be easy, and sometimes I think we really want that easy way, but actually it needs to be a little bit difficult and a little bit challenging, because that's what helps the brain remember. The researchers are calling it desirable difficulty, and it's that process of like, oh, can I retrieve the information? Not quite. Testing, learning, yeah, I've got it now, I've forgotten it, now I'm going to learn it again. It can feel like a difficult process, but it's a very efficient way of learning that information. So to recap, step 1, relax the brain. Step 2, reading the information out loud, write out your revision cards, condensing the information, question on one side, answer on the other. Step 3, teach the information to somebody else. Step 4, test yourself with the nailed it pile and the not yet nailed pile. Step 5, take a break, preferably go and do some exercise. And step 6, repeat. Repeat it an hour later, repeat it again the next day, repeat it again 3 days later. There's a lot of research now showing that this spaced learning, the forgetting and the relearning, is really what helps us lay down those long-term memories. So if you found this video useful, please share it. Share it with your classmates, share it with your friends, share it with whoever you're going to teach the information to. If you liked it, please press like, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my next video, because I'd love to see you there. Until then, study calm.